Hello and welcome. The big question on the table, college athletics, the landscape is changing. College athletics, the student athletes are getting older, and parents have this kind of uneasiness about the role of the high school athlete. And so I wanted to do this the correct way. And so what I'm going to do is do this in two parts. And I'm going to do this in part one, and which is this evening from 7 to 8. So everyone that wants to watch the Miami and Indiana game can do so. And then tomorrow evening at 8 p.m., I will bring on a student athlete. So this evening, we'll hear from a coach, a very well respected coach, someone that's been in the world of postgraduate or prep school athletics and college placement as a college advisor at an elite high school that's been around for centuries. And then we'll have a student athlete that attended a postgraduate school in 2014, 12 years later. Was it worth it? First and foremost, welcome. We're doing a little holiday edition of our ProLine live Q&A. So if you have a question at any point, whether for myself or ultimately Coach Pat Morardi, current head coach at Deerfield Academy, please feel free to put that onto the screen. I will make sure that I take the time to address your question. One of the things that when I go and I post something on social media, obviously it's very one-dimensional. There's no tone, there's no inflection, and sometimes it lacks a full understanding of what the topic is really all about. And so what I am attempting to do over these next two nights is really fill in the blanks for you as parents and obviously for student athletes. And I always get asked, what kind of backup information do you have, the data that will validate anything you're saying? Because these scare tactics have been going on for decades. Or I will get parents that will say, well, I am certainly not going to delay the inevitable and try to chase the crazy world of athletics because, inevitably we all have to move on in life and we have blah, blah, blah. Here's the deal. The college experience is a collection of independent, valuable resources that help your student athlete mature into a young man or woman. That's a fact. They leave childhood behind as they leave high school and they become young adults as they begin to get into their upper class years in college. 2 years ago, the year was 2024, and the average college softball or baseball player, the average age of that student athlete was 20 years old. More precisely, if you're going to run to Google, you'll find that it's 20 and 1 month. Today, it is 22. 2 years, the average age has gone up 2 years. Okay, well, you may want to say, okay, well, obviously that's somewhat still reasonable. It's not 25 like you keep telling us. No, again, the average. So if we're talking 24 to 20, the average 22. Well, if we listen to all of the chatter, much like 3-4 years ago when we started to talk about name, image, and likeness and transfer portal and the boogeyman, all of those changes happened. And when they happened, those that were prepared were able to make their decisions, choose their path. Those that didn't ended up having to chase and try to find that last chair. And so what I'm trying to really explain to parents is when we talk about reclassification or we talk about postgraduate schools, what I want you to truly begin to understand is this is more than more than athletics. This is not baseball specific. It is all sports. Some of the changes that are going to be occurring, whether now someone put a nice message, I'll say nice because I don't want to say a mean spirited direct message, Mr. Alvin, with regard to, well, they didn't pass the 5-year eligibility, 5 years of eligibility in Division II, like you've been pontificating for the last year and a half. Well, if we look at the reason why both NCAA Division I and Division II have kicked that down the road to 2028, is because of the collective bargaining agreement that is going to be occurring in 2027 with Major League Baseball, and the draft is going to be altered in some way in minor leagues, and overall litigation is going to settle down. But litigation is going to rear its head once again with regard to this extra year, that if you're giving 4 years of eligibility to be completed within 5, why not give them that 5th year? And if they get hurt or they go to 2 years at JUCO, they still have 3 years in their earnings and all this stuff that we want to talk that's now part of the vernacular of college athletics. That is why those things were kicked back to 2028. And here's the other thing, just when we think we have it all figured out, there's still more changes. And if we're all adults in the room and we try to play well with others, the number one thing to understand is changes are going to continue to occur over the foreseeable, I would say, next 2 to 3 years, where things will kind of begin to settle in. Post grad and prep schools simply are a part. If you, as a parent or a student athlete, value academics, now some people, their own opinions, they don't really worry too much about academics. Those are the people that will say to us, the last thing the world needs is another sports management graduate degree or another degree in business marketing. Okay, that's a story for another time. But if we're all, being adults here and a certain segment of our group is really interested in academics on a bigger scale, meaning we value the academic process, we value the higher levels academics and possibly not only an undergraduate degree but a graduate degree. The world of prep school, boarding schools, this topic has been around for centuries, and they are very, very good at preparation with regard to your student being fully prepared for the rigors that await them at the college level. So let's try to be grown-ups, and let's not try to make this about, oh yeah, like we need more 24 and 25-year-olds playing college athletics. So let's do a reclass or let's do a post-grad year. Time out. That's not what post-grad or preparatory schools are about. They are certainly not going to try and tell a high school student to spend 6 years in college chasing an undergraduate degree. Now, if we're going into the world of graduate degrees and doctorates and things of that nature, okay, we'll be in college for a while. And that's where those types of schools come in handy. But let's start here. What is the role, or what should the role of prep school, reclassing, and postgrad play with your family's decisions with regard to academics and athletics? Now, for 38 years, I have led, I have walked it and I have talked it, um, forwards, backwards, sideways, athletic ability for academic excellence It's not just a mission statement. It's just not a slogan. I never received a college degree. I'm not considered to be an educated man. Okay. And that did not allow me to pursue certain, um, you know, vocations or business opportunities. Even as a coach, they wanted you to have a 4-year degree, and if you wanted to coach at the Division 1 level, they preferred a master's, a graduate degree. I do not have a college degree. Therefore, I wanted my boys to be a little bit more than just athletes. I didn't want them just to be identified as baseball players. Did we love sports? Absolutely. Did we love baseball? You betcha. Um, but I really felt strongly and expressed to those that were asking at the time, I wanted my boys to try to trade athletic ability for academic opportunities throughout their entire life. Now, my sons are now 33 and 35, or soon to be 33. Now, my youngest attended Lawrence Academy his junior year. So he reclassified. Now, he could have repeated his sophomore year. He left a public high school in Auburn, Massachusetts, in 2009. In the spring of 2009, in the fall of 2009, he started his junior year at Lawrence Academy in Groton, Massachusetts. In hindsight, I wish, and I think to some degree he wishes, he may have repeated his sophomore year, having nothing to do with baseball skill sets. Oh, by the way, he played as a freshman at Vanderbilt University, a starting pitchers for all 3 years that he attended Vanderbilt as a student athlete. He subsequently graduated while playing professionally. So it worked out for my youngest son, Tyler. But we did not make the decision to go to Lawrence Academy because of baseball. We had already decided and discussed as a family that we felt the role of academics was going to play a large role in this case, my son Tyler at either Vanderbilt, UVA, Duke. So those three schools, and it came down to UVA and Vanderbilt because of the strength of the academics, the network, the student body, the faculty, the campus, the culture, the strength that degree would offer my son as he moved away from a career in baseball and ventured into adulthood, which he is in now. And during that time of making that decision, our number one goal was to allow my son at the time to expand his group of friends, his network within his high school age group, his peer group. The faculty was global, the student body was global, and we really felt that the structure academically would help, really truly prepare. So that's really where we want to start. Is these schools are going to offer total preparation for a student to truly be prepared for the workload that awaits them as student athletes within college. Now, this can be any sport. I want to make sure I'm really clear on this. This can be any sport. I have been talking with parents of lacrosse and soccer and softball. And this topic comes up about reclassification. It's almost like you have to whisper it, what about reclassing? Well, my recruiting service told me it was a waste of time and it wasn't necessary. Or my current high school tells me that's not necessary. Well, that's fine. And I respect all of their opinions. But again, what is the real goal for you as parents and obviously as student athletes? What are you attempting to do with regard to the role that college plays for your child? Not how hard did they throw, how far can they hit a baseball, not how big they are, or how fast they are. Just what role will college play for my student athlete um, moving forward? Now you can say, well, he's not really that smart or he's not a 1400 SAT. Again, these schools offer, diversity in every dynamic and aspect of life, and it allows your student, your child, to become the best possible version of themselves that they would like to obtain or attain. And I always try to get parents to understand when Tyler attended Lawrence Academy as a 16-year-old, he graduated high school 17 and then turned 18 2 days later. He was shy. He was not really what I would say was very orally or oracally inclined with regard to speaking in front of the class or speaking in front of teams. Um, and he became very comfortable with that. And he speaks very well now. And he became comfortable with being uncomfortable. And his number one teacher was Dr. Fagelbaum, a theater faculty member from NYU that retired to Groton, Massachusetts, and became part of the faculty at Lawrence Academy. Wasn't a baseball coach, although he's very close with Chris Margraf at Lawrence Academy. Wasn't an English teacher, math teacher, social studies, theater, that challenged Tyler to really become more engaged and really allow himself to grow as a speaker. And I really found that fascinating, still do to this day. So the role of these prep schools and postgraduate schools, it's bigger than just sports. So let's start there. That's topic number one. And before we bring Coach Moriarty out, topic number two is it for everybody? No, it's not. My oldest son would not have been successful there. And I recognize that. It's not because I don't think it would have allowed him the same opportunities that Tyler had, but I feel that Kyle would have been overwhelmed. But sometimes there are decisions in life that may be uncomfortable and you want to be proactive as opposed to reactive. And so let's assume, for the sake of this discussion, as it relates to academics, it will definitely be more challenging in the classroom. It will definitely be more structured with regard to books and paper, writing, curriculum may be a little bit more challenging. They do have staff that is available and, for the students that need that extra study time, study hall, tutoring, peer tutoring, faculty tutoring, etc. They have all sorts of support mechanisms in place, much like college does, for all students, not just student athletes. The other part of this is you are allowing your students, your children, to get a broader view, um, academically and socially, at a global type of student body. I have student athletes that I have helped, and we will speak with one tomorrow evening. From as far back as the early 2000s, and today they are great adults with great families, and their husbands and their dads and their wives, and they look back so very fondly. I have cousins that attended Phillips Andover, Brooks Academy, that went on to schools like Trinity and Ivy League schools and UVA School of Business, Wharton School of Business. And part of the help and assistance to getting into those schools, those colleges, and those business schools was because of the boarding school or prep school that they attended. And so I really want parents to kind of look outside the box. This isn't just a focus on athletics. This is more of a focus on a wider lens for families. As a high school student, I was told several times that I was not cut out for college, When I got there on a football scholarship, there were study halls and things to make sure I succeeded. I agree 1000%. Sometimes it's beware of the boogeyman because it's the unknown. When we hear people talk about college isn't for everyone, there's a need for vocation. Absolutely. There are days and times where I wish I would have been a plumber, or I would have been an electrician. But I was a baseball guy. I was a baseball coach. I was a baseball player, and I was a one trick pony. And I had to fight and scrap, in order to provide for my children. And now, as a 63-year-old adult, I try to share my perspectives. I am not trying to shove a narrative down someone's throat. When I look back on students that I have worked with or families that I know personally, that I have known, and whether through my local community or through my work within coaching, those families that have taken the opportunity to looking at reclassification, looking into postgraduate opportunities. I have yet to find somebody that doesn't look back on those memories fondly, the relationships, the preparation that it gave them. And I really hope that as these next two programs, offer you some insight, I hope you take a deeper dive on that and you really allow yourself the opportunity to learn a little bit more. I certainly don't come from an affluent family. In fact, I'm a one man guy. I am like my parents, the story, the drill. Like, so I didn't have the financial wherewithal to provide this opportunity. But a lot of these schools do have resources. In fact, they seek out those that may be academically, in a position to say, I really want to strive to become the best version of myself as a student academically as well as athletically. And those schools will provide assistance in a multitude of different ways. And I was fortunate that my son received merit money because of his athletic prowess in both football and baseball. And I wanted to make sure that he understood that we wanted to maximize that opportunity when he was young, in his youth, so that he could get a return on his commitment to his athletic abilities. He worked hard, extremely hard. And we're going to cover that here tonight with Coach Morardi. And in return, he was given the opportunity to expand his academic and social horizons, to come out from his comfort zone, to challenge himself a little bit more than he might have at Auburn High School. Now, Auburn High School, tremendous teachers, tremendous faculty. They won state football titles. They won state baseball championships with my sons and without my sons after my sons had graduated or left for Lawrence Academy. But I wanted to ensure that particularly Tyler understood that when he attended a UVA or ultimately a Vanderbilt University, that he would not be caught off guard, that he would be prepared. He knew it was going to be challenging. And boy, oh boy, that freshman year, even with the 2 years at Lawrence Academy, professors don't care what your velocity is. Professors don't care what your batting average is. Professors at schools, they don't give degrees out in a crackerjack box from UVA or Duke or Wake or Harvard or Ivy League or Patriot League or NESCAT schools. Regardless of the name of the college or the university, you are going to earn a college degree. And whether we agree as to the value of that degree, adults will say, anybody can get a degree. You got to put in the time, you got to put in the work, you got to put in the effort, and you only get out what you put in. And that was the message. And that's why when I'm working with families, particularly when we're starting at the early ages, and again, I've worked with families from North America, Canada, all throughout the United States. And those families always 100% look back. I talked to a young man today from Texas. He's attending Phillips Exeter. He attended an all boys Catholic school. Hey, how are things going at Exeter? Well, it's awfully cold and there's a lot of snow. I said, other than that, how are you liking Phillips Exeter? Well, it's hard. But I knew that. And that's what we signed up for. And that's what's helping me when I go to Holy Cross. So this dialogue is not to try to preach, hey, you need to go to some baseball-orientated school and you need to just focus on baseball and don't really worry about studying because that's really not important. But you need to lift, you need to take batting practice, or you need to throw weighted balls 8 to 10 hours a day so that you will be the greatest athlete in the world. That is not what you're going to hear tonight or even tomorrow night. I want you to understand, in my world that I live in, that I work in, that I talk about, I try to get parents to understand world is a big place. International students are coming from all over the world and they're attending colleges in the United States, universities in the United States. It's an extremely competitive landscape getting into colleges. And if you feel as a parent that your student athlete has the passion to ultimately participate as a college student athlete, reclassifying, starting these schools at younger ages. Most of these schools will start some as early as the 7th grade, some it's not till the 9th grade. They go through a 12th grade year. In some cases, some schools have a postgraduate year. We're going to get into the postgraduate curriculum and why it's not repeating your 12th grade year. But I want to make sure that I started this conversation in such a capacity and a manner that you as parents understood. We're not going to talk about Division One and Division One scholarships. We're talking all levels of college, all levels of college. And my guest today is going to help me present both sides of this topic, and I really am excited. Now, I want to yes, shout out to Connecticut. We have Loomis Chaffee, we have Choate, we have Salisbury, we have Cheshire, Avon Old Farms. We have so many schools in Connecticut, within, the network of postgraduate schools or preparatory schools. But I really want to give this the correct. My next guest is really a genuinely elite mentor of life. Now, I can say this about several coaches within the greater New England network of prep schools. I feel very strongly about Chris Margraf, Lawrence Academy, work with my son. I could speak on a number of different coaches, but my next guest is Pat Morardi, who's currently the head coach at Deerfield Academy and has been for the last 9 years. Prior to Pat taking over at Deerfield, Deerfield was a prestigious, academic, highly successful football, hockey, multitude of sports at the prep school level. Baseball, a little bit not as strong, and now they are New England contenders. But my hope tonight is for parents to ask questions of Pat as it pertains to the value, the collective value of the prep school postgraduate year process. And without further ado, there he is, Coach Pat Morardi. Coach, how are you today?
Good. How are you, Walter? Thank you for having me. I really appreciate all that you do for all this information. This is great stuff. Parents and players, I'm looking forward to a good evening tonight with you all.
Well, I want to let everyone know, again, we don't script this. So Pat and we haven't scripted anything. I haven't sent them 10 questions to be prepared for. I basically want to keep this. You have a question, you can ask. So Pat, let's talk a little bit about from Springfield, Mass. out to Deerfield Academy. Talk a little bit about your coaching career, where you started, where you are, and if you like, where you're going.
Yeah, great. Thanks. I played high school ball, Cathedral High School in Springfield, almost came to Deerfield, 1989, decided to stay at my high school and finish there, went on to play baseball and hockey in college. Started coaching as soon as I graduated college as a varsity assistant. Was a varsity assistant for 9 years at Cathedral, and then was a head coach at Cathedral for 12 years. After that, a 2-year stint with Pope Francis Prep, which was a merger high school with Cathedral and Holyoke Catholic. Went to a Super 8 there. Prior to that, actually at Cathedral, won a sectional title, a couple Division I titles. And then accepted the position at Deerfield. It's been 9 years at Deerfield. 9 great years. And this will be, as you know, Walter, my last year at Deerfield. I will coach this spring, and then I've signed on to coach next year at Masters Academy, which is an IMG-like academy in Stowe, Massachusetts.
And another reason why I felt that Pat would offer, I feel that Coach Morardi offers us some valuable insight and information on this process. So let's start with a Deerfield Academy. Now, when you start to talk about going there 9 years ago, talk about the ages, talk about the campus. Let's not focus on baseball. Let's just talk about the campus, where students and faculty are generally from.
Yeah, so Deerfield's a school of 650 students. We're represented by 45 different countries and 38 different states. So a lot of diversity here. Teaching faculty here are second to none. Really, really bright people that not only care about students in the classroom, but care about students in the dorm, care about students in social settings. Most classrooms here are 12 students or less. And I think that's very similar across the board. Walter mentioned earlier tonight, Choate, Loomis, Cheshire, Salisbury, all great schools. As you start to look into these schools, I would say that it'd be much like the college process, college admissions process, maybe just a year earlier or a couple of years earlier, where families, you should be looking for fit. You shouldn't be looking for a coach or successful program, but looking for fit, someplace that your son can grow socially, academically, and athletically.
The most misunderstood dynamic is a lot of times parents will say, oh boy, I cannot afford that. I really think my son or my daughter are really, bright academically. I would love for them to be challenged. Talk a little bit about that dynamic, not only at Deerfield, but most of the schools of the similar, ilk, as far as like whether they're in Connecticut or Andover, Exeter, or Taft, anything along those lines. Talk a little bit about some of the opportunities from a financial aid or that type of a program that does allow those types of students that are academic / athletically orientated, not just athletes, but if you're a fit for a certain school, they do have processes to help make it affordable.
Sure. Yeah. I would never be deterred by the sticker price. And I know on Deerfield's website, and I'm sure they're on every website, so we have sort of what would be a net price calculator. So, based on family income, you should expect to pay this amount. We have an initiative recently passed here at Deerfield for families that make less than $150,000 combined. That those students come here for zero, for free. And then sort of working off that 150,000 and plus or more, typically roughly 10% of that income. So I know that's a Deerfield model. I don't really want to speak to other models, but I understand the question, Walter. And I would say that, again, talk to the financial aid offices. Most schools will, admit students based on what they can pay. I think the families that can pay full price are typically families that are making, upwards of $600,000, $700,000, $800,000.
One of the dynamics of this process that you just alluded to, you just kind of touched on, talk about, this isn't just for the junior or senior in high school. There are programs now, in some cases, the schools start as young as the 7th grade. Some it's the freshman year. But talk a little bit about it's the girls, the boys, it's not just the, hey, you have to be a junior or a senior in high school and then you want to reclass. Sometimes students reclass, other times they don't. Talk about, when you mention right fit, it's really truly about the fit and the opportunity.
It is in the fit, and I'll use Roxbury Latin as an example here. A school that's really, really selective and rigorous, and a great academic program there, and it's in a pretty good baseball program as of late, especially. At a school like Roxbury Latin, probably your best and only way to get in there is 7th and/or 8th grade. After that, they really don't add to grades. For a school like Deerfield and most others are grade 9 through post-grad. So, we'll take our biggest class will always be our 9th grade class, typically about 110 students, 55 boys, 55 girls or females. And we'll typically add, roughly 30 new 10th graders, 30 new 11th graders, and about 30 new 12th graders and or postgraduates. Backtracking again a little to the middle school, sorry, I might have left this out, is that some schools, again, will reclass, in the middle school as well. So whether you're talking about a post-grad year, which is basically repeating your 12th grade year, reclassification is allowed at any grade, I think 7 through 12. So people choose to reclass at different times. I know with each of my children, I reclassed them each at 9th grade. So they went to a private middle school for 7th, 8th, and 9th, and then they reclassified and came here to Deerfield.
So can you talk about some of the reasons or rationales that might be associated with the reclassing dynamic before we go down the post-grad world? Like, what are some of the reasons over and above athletics that families would choose to want to reclass their students?
Yeah, I always, and it's not a requirement here. I don't know if any school requires it, but it's always starts with the simple question is what's the rush? I think first and foremost. But secondly, I talk to people about being a year older, developing more academically, socially and athletically. I think of reclassifying, reclassifying will allow students an extra year of math, an extra year of possibly history and or science, an extra year to grow smarter and a little more savvy when it comes to possibly taking an SAT or an ACT. And lastly, I think athletics is always sort of last, although maybe first in our minds here, is more of a physical, mature player during the recruiting stages and when the student athlete actually gets to college. A 19-year-old or a 20-year-old, maybe a 21-year-old, by the time they actually get to college, as in comparison to an 18-year-old or 17-year-old.
One of the things that I always, when I start to talk with parents or people, when I engage on social media, which has become, I don't know, combative, I can't think of a better word, but sometimes people will want to get a rise out of me and they'll say, well, we don't want to see 25-year-old college athletes. Why do I want to see a 19-year-old high school athlete, that's going to be turning 20? But in reality, from a ability to handle and manage the workload that is required of college students, and then on top of that, college student athletes, the reclass and the postgrad kind of share a little bit about how that helps truly prepare the student being able to handle and manage that workload when they do ultimately get to college.
Yeah, I think again, maturity. I think of time management. I think of living independently. Having to do your laundry. Figuring out when to say yes to your friends. Yeah, I want to go watch the basketball game, even though I've got a lot of homework. Or no, I don't want to go watch that basketball game or that hockey game on a Friday night or a Wednesday night. I've got to stay behind and I've got to get work done. So it's being able to manage your time. It's being able to, I like the students that give it a really good try before they ask their teachers for help, but knowing when to sort of work independently and try to, I guess, grind through certain assignments, as opposed to saying, you know what, I really don't understand this material. I need to ask for help. I need to go to extra help or or reach out to this teacher. So I think it's finding your voice. I think it's managing your time. I think it's just maturing overall and knowing how to live independently at one of these schools.
So a couple of things that I want to give to some parents, because every single person that engaged with me recently on social media was looking for data. Like, do you have data to back this up? So I actually do. So we're going to start with a couple of things that I really want parents to understand and why this topic is not a phase or a trend. This has been going around for decades, if not centuries, as far as the reclass and the postgraduate world. First thing is I want to let you know, as I alluded to earlier, the average age of a college student athlete, the average age is 21.9 years or 22 years old. That's up 2 years from 2022-23. Next, I want to let parents know that when we start talking about the all-powerful playing time, last year in 2025, freshmen only took 12.6% of the at-bats and only pitched 15% of the total innings. That's in college baseball. That's not Division I, that's not Division II, that's all of college baseball. And last but not least, I want to let you know that roster composition, the trends, the way the world is shifting with regard to college athletics is older athletes. Obviously, the portal plays a role in that. Obviously, junior colleges play a role in that. But what we used to have, say, over the last 20 years when my children were going through this process, and maybe, Pat, you can touch on this, earlier recruiting really added fuel to the fire with regard to my son is 14 and being recruited by, this school or that school. Those days are over. And so, what used to be considered like an epidemic and everybody was running as a freshman and, had to go to a camp. Now the trend is actually opposite. They're slowing everything down and going back to when dinosaurs roamed the earth in the 70s and 80s. And we didn't make college decisions until our senior year in high school or possibly our postgraduate year. If we look at sports, and Pat, I'd like for you to touch on this. What might be considered new with regard to baseball, but hockey and football have been utilizing postgraduate, whether it's Bridgeton or Milford Academy for football and hockey. My very good friend went to Cardigan. Postgraduate and reclassification has been around for decades. So this really isn't anything new, is it, Pat? With regard to getting into these type of higher level academic schools from an athletic or an academic perspective?
No, not at all. And again, not a requirement here, but I bet I'd use the percentage of about 70% of our male athletes at Deerfield decide on their own to reclass. I think for instance, is for one reason is the athletic piece and they're looking down the road at the big picture and everything else. I think too, transitioning to these schools, you mentioned Auburn High School, which is a wonderful high school, going from Auburn to Lawrence Academy for your son, Tyler, was a big step, as it is, coming from any school to Deerfield and not putting down public high schools or Catholic high schools or day schools or anything else. It's a big jump. So I think the reclassification there helps as well. So I think it's making the most of your opportunities. If you're a 10th grader and you want to come in, to Deerfield, we like the reclass because you're going to get 3 years here instead of 2. You're going to be able to network more. You're going to be able to meet people from around the world. You're going to make more friends, cultivate more relationships, all that. That's all a part of it. We get you for an extra year, obviously, in the baseball program. But for all the reasons, all the above, I think there are very few reasons as to why not to reclassify, in my opinion.
Well, a few questions that have come in. I want to say thank you to everyone that is watching, especially William McGurk. Miss you, Captain. And then I have a question, and this, I guess, might be related to you, Pat, in some way, because you're more of the younger ages. Maybe you have some understanding of this as far as you mentioned 9th grade. Someone has a young 7th grader turning 13 in July. Parents are discussing holding back, reclassing a year, so he's better prepared physically with regard to sports. we have experience in that, but Pat, what do you feel like that extra year, ninth grade wise, allowed your children to benefit from over and above, anything to do with athletics?
Yeah, growing up, maturing, becoming more physical. I think as a reclassified ninth grader, you get a real chance to contribute to varsity as opposed to an eighth grader coming right into ninth grade. I guess maybe at that time you're 14, just turning 14, and if you're playing in prep school baseball, you could be facing a 19-year-old pitcher as a 14-year-old hitter. I think that's a disadvantage for the 14-year-old. I'm sorry. We've even had some postgraduates who have turned 20 here their senior year, or seniors that have turned 20 their senior year here. They're eligible as long as they don't turn 20 before the start of the school season. A couple of those guys went on to play Ivy League baseball. So Ivy Leagues aren't opposed to the older student. Again, I think just bigger, faster, stronger, smarter, more mature.
Now we're gonna bring up a topic that a lot of people want to talk about, and you alluded to this, and you made this comparison, and I want to kind of, I don't want to skirt the issue, and I want to talk directly about the new model that is emerging. Is the IMG, as you alluded to it, the IMG model, and I want you to kind of explain your new journey and why. What is it about that opportunity that you feel is the next level, to the academic athletic process with regard to the new school going up in Stowe, Massachusetts?
Yeah, I think it's a high engagement model. I look forward to being with my players. As you mentioned earlier, I enjoy being a leader, being a mentor, being a role model. But in the current prep school, the Deerfields, the Choates, the Lawrence's Academies, the Loomises, we are very, very limited to what we can do with players out of season in the fall and winter. Small group skills and drills, really small group, usually less than 4 or 5, here, there, a couple times a week, a couple times a month, until you get to the spring season. The spring season is a 9-week season. We'll play 3 or 4 games a week here at Deerfield. And it'll be a good run and everything else. But the Masters model or the IMG model, but the Masters Academy model in Stowe, Massachusetts is it's year-round training. It's going to be a full fall schedule similar to a Division I college program. We're going to play, anywhere from 20 to 25 games. We have 2 turf fields, lights. When the fall sort of winds down, we will do some arm care. We will shut our pitchers down. We even will shut our position players down a little bit from throwing. We will continue to hit and to talk about baseball and work out and get some strength and conditioning going. And then we'll start to ramp it right back up right around this time, early January, to prepare for a trip to Florida, spring training trip, and then start the spring season with 30 to 40 games in the spring. So you're talking about anywhere from, 40 to 60 games between fall and spring. Another thing that's really, really interested me in this job is, and I've had some opportunities to coach in college and everything else, and I've thought about it, but I love the high school level. I love the prep level. Is the fact that I'm a head coach. I'm going to recruit. I'm going to coach and design practices and develop players. And I don't have another portion of my job to run to at Masters, whereas most of these prep schools coaches are teachers. They work in admissions. They're college advising. And this just allows me at Masters to run a good 2.5-hour practice, get our players into some strength and conditioning after, maybe watch some video, maybe have a quick recruiting meeting, and then even after practice or pre-practice, even give some extra help to some of those players, whether it's hitting, pitching, throwing, fielding. But just, again, the high engagement model year round as opposed to more of a 9-week prep model is what's really interested me.
Mr. Mike McLean, I think I mentioned Cardigan. I hope I I got that fact right. But one of the questions that a parent is asking for you, Pat, is okay, that's a big difference. And when we start to talk about true preparation for college athletes, to become a college athlete, the understanding and the managing of, what goes into being an athlete with regard to your work habits, your daily routines, your daily disciplines, and then having the ability to have access to you unfettered for 9 or 10 months, depending upon your length of season. It's a non-traditional fall schedule, meaning it's very similar. It's non-traditional from a high school perspective, but from a college perspective, very, very similar, where you have a full college season with games and practices and things of that nature. And then you have your off season, your conditioning, your strength, arm care, et cetera, leading into a full 40 to 45 game type of spring season against high level competition. So I guess in a way, and again, we're going to call it, Masters Academy, but it's an IMG model with regard to you really going after that elite level of development in total for a future college student athlete, not just Division I, but for the true college athlete. Is that correct?
That's correct. Yeah, we plan to have 2 teams of 18, so we're not going to over recruit this or have too many players. So the players that are recruited here are going to play. And I look at it this way: it's simple math, Walter. Again, all these schools are great, including Deerfield. I love Deerfield. I'm going to coach my last season there. I love my kids here. This was a difficult week, sort of letting them know that I'm moving on. But at a school like Deerfield or any of those others that we mentioned before, it's a 9-week season, right? We're going to play, including Florida, we're going to probably play 28 games or so. 7 down in Florida, about 21 or 22 official games up north. We're going to practice maybe 40 times, 35 or 40 times, as opposed to the Masters model where we will play, as you mentioned, 45 to 60 games, and we'll probably practice, maybe upwards of 110 times. So I think it's simple math. I think it's getting out on the field more, getting more reps, getting more game time, getting more playing time. And I think all too often, especially recently, I've been doing this a long time, 31 years when you combine both schools, that, within the last 3 years, 4 years, 5 years, more and more families, as we're having conversations, and recruiting is about building relationships, right? We're building our relationships. More and more families here that have been looking at Deerfield, and I know they're looking at the other schools as well, have said, like, what can you do for my son in the fall? What can you do for my son in the winter? And that's always a difficult question because, there are rules and regulations in NEPSAC, which is the governing council for New England prep school sports. And I have an amazing AD here too, that needs to sort of police this whole all these workouts and everything else, and he wants us to play by the rules and abide by the rules. So it's less than 4 or 5 players, and it's 10 times in the fall, maybe it's 10 times in the winter, and we're trying to find different pockets of time where I can get some players out there and get them some work while also doing my regular job here. Like I said, college advising and sit down meals and dorm duty. And they have to be students and be social. So there's just not enough time in the day, in my opinion here. And another reason why I think this model at Masters is what everybody's basically asking for. Masters isn't trying to change people's minds. I think they're simply adjusting to and giving the customer exactly what they want.
One of the questions, and this is your final question, Pat, and I'm going to let you go so you can hang out a little bit watching the game. Do academics play a role in Masters or IMG type organizations? Do they go somewhere online? Do they take classes online or the local JUCO? This is not, I really want you to answer this because I have about 4 people asking me, what type of academics is a school such as Masters going to provide for their student athletes?
Sure. In person, most importantly. Academics matter. I can't, and I know, Walter, that you stress this a lot, and I've seen your podcast on this. Academics are so important. Poor grades can only close doors, right? The better the grade, the better the testing, everything else. Those are the more doors that you're going to open up for yourselves. And at the end of the day, I've coached pros. At the end of the day, baseball is going to come to an end at the age of 22, 32, or 42. We've coached pros and everything else. And our philosophy here at Deerfield is going to be much like the philosophy at Masters. It's not going to be about the 4-year college baseball experience. It's going to be about the 40-year plan for life. So Masters has its hands full because it's not IMG Florida. It's going to be better because it's in a market in New England here that is saturated with private schools, excellent private schools. The names we've been talking about all night. Masters is forced to, and they want to, have an excellent and strong academic program. Otherwise, it's not gonna succeed. So the academics will be really, really strong and challenging at Masters, along with the athletic program.
Well, Pat, I want to say thank you for joining me. I really appreciate you taking the time to share some information with us. Best of luck this year at Deerfield and obviously in the future at Masters.
Thank you, Walter. Again, I really appreciate all that you do for these families. Your information is spot on. I appreciate it, and I'll talk to you soon.
All right, sir. Thank you so much. Now, parents, I want to let you know two things. First and foremost is I want to I've waited. JC, most people cannot see, and I'm not going to pick on you, JC. I hope you're still there, and I hope you're listening. And if you are, I would love for you to acknowledge that you're still here. But I have waited for this particular portion, and we're going to end tonight's portion of the episode for tonight with this topic. And JC, I hope you're there listening. This is for you. No way I'm holding my son back because of sports, and he's a late bloomer. This trend's a joke. I hate that my son has to compete in his age group, and almost all the players are still a year older. I wish coaches would value the kid that competes and hold his own against elite competition without holding his athlete. Now, this is a big without in capital letters. Without holding my student athlete back a year. Is that the gist of this, JC? Is that the gist of this? Because I want to make sure I answer this correctly. I just read your words verbatim. My son graduated high school at 17 years old. He went to Lawrence Academy. He didn't reclass. He attended Lawrence Academy from sophomore year directly into his junior year. He succeeded as a high school athlete a year to a year and a half older than him, bigger than him, better than him. He was challenged football, basketball, baseball. He went to Vanderbilt as an 18-year-old kid, 18 when he pitched in college in the SEC. And he got his ass kicked. His freshman year, he learned how to compete. In his junior year, he was runner-up for the Golden Spikes Award. He was 14-1 with a 2 ERA in the SEC. So hear me talk directly to you. This is not about reclassifying kids so they can be the big dude on the sandlot. This has nothing to do about athletics and everything to do with being prepared for life. Period. End of story. Just because you think that reclassing or postgraduate is wrong and cheating and holding people back when the inevitable is that you're going to go to school, this isn't the topic that you want to sit here and pontificate about. This is about providing a resource for parents and, more importantly, athletes to create more avenues for opportunities in life. One of my buddies who's watching this right now is from Saugus, Mass. I grew up in Lynn, Mass. We're as blue collar as blue can be. And that kid got plucked from a pond to play hockey at an elite academic school, and it altered his life. And he was able to get a scholarship, or his parents were able to get a scholarship to go to a school and alter his life. This is about opportunity. This isn't about being the big medal trophy winning athlete. This isn't about trying to cheat to make sure that your student athlete gets to be the biggest and the oldest. This is because college baseball, college athletics, college football, my God, man, look at the guy playing quarterback at Miami tonight. He graduated college 2 years ago. 2 years ago. He doesn't even take a class. He's getting paid millions of dollars to play college football. You got a complaint? You got a complaint with the NCAA. You got a complaint with society. You don't have a complaint with me. When I'm talking to parents, I'm telling it as I lived it. The realities are, if you as a parent are not proactive and you think you're going to go to the Good Ship Lollipop and play college football at Fitchburg State or Southern Connecticut State, I got a news flash for you. Fitchburg State's really good in football, and you might be an all-American high school player in Connecticut, Rhode Island, or Texas. You show up at Fitchburg State, you better put your big boy pants on and be ready to compete. It ain't easy. And the sooner that you understand what college athletics are truly all about, we see all the glitz and glamour. We read all the headlines. We see all the pretty articles and the All-Americans and the trophies. But behind the scenes, there are kids that go to JUCO just praying for an opportunity to get to a 4-year school. In some cases, just so they can still live on their parents' Social Security that passed away 4 years ago, so that they can continue to try and earn a degree to get a better quality of life. Sports are not the say-all, be-all. Life, like sports, is brutally hard. And the sooner you understand that, maybe the better you'll understand that trading your athletic ability for the opportunity to attend college. I used to coach at a school that literally, I am not making this up, you can look this up, Becker College, doesn't even exist anymore. It's out of business. They went from a JUCO to a NCAA Division III 4-year program. In their first 5 years of NCAA existence, they never won a game. They were 0-100, 0-110. And when I took that program over, my buddies used to say, "What are you doing? It costs so much money to go to that school. How are you going to recruit to go to that school? You can go to a JUCO for $2,000 a semester. You can go to a state school at Worcester State for, $10,000 a year at the time. Your school costs $45,000. How are you going to recruit kids?" Most of those kids would never have had an opportunity to go to college. And now when I talk to those boys, some of them are extremely successful because we were able to get them into college, help them get affordable opportunities to attend college, play baseball, get a degree, and now as parents at 38, 39, and 40 years of age, they still call me coach. And they're tremendously proud that they graduated with a degree that helps them earn a quality of and provide a quality of life for their daughters, their sons, their wife, their family. That's what this message is about. So for all of you people that want to continuously say reclassification and postgraduate school is just cheating, you're holding so you can be better competitive. Come on, man. See the bigger picture. Widen your lens. Have an idea. Figure it out. It's not the case. And tomorrow night, I am going to make sure that I have a couple of students that are in their late to mid-30s that have attended postgraduate, attended college. They were told they'd never play college athletics, never play beyond high school. And they played NCAA Division I, played at the Cape, and was a 4-year starter in college because they did a post-grad year. That's the point that this video is trying to make. It's not trying to talk about extending your schoolboy days and your giving you a leg up on the competition. The competition at in hockey, Division 3, hockey. Do you know where Nichols College is in Webster, Massachusetts? Do you know where Endicott College is in Beverly, Massachusetts? How about Fitchburg State College in Fitchburg, Massachusetts? Do you know that the average college freshman hockey player, girls and boys, men and women, is 21 years old? Go look up the rosters. They're 20 and 21. They're freshmen in high school. You want to send your 17 or 18-year-old student into that competition? Great. You want to know why college coaches aren't recruiting some of the kids that are younger? It's because they cannot compete. Physical maturity. They're not ready. Their bodies are not ready. That's it. That's the fact. Sorry, I got a little excited there. I hope you get that, JC. Could you speak to athletes recovering from injury and reclassification or post-grad programs? High school junior son will need Tommy John surgery. Mrs. J, I don't know your name. I deal with that all the time. I have 4 boys this year, 4 boys that are 2026 high school graduates that are doing a postgraduate year. They're not going to get the opportunity to play this year as a senior in high school. I had 3 boys last year. They're all going to postgrad schools. They're all going to colleges. 2 are going to Division 1, and 1 is going to an elite academic Division 3 school, NESCAT school. It's a tremendous opportunity for those student athletes that might be injured. Maybe you broke a bone, you didn't get to participate in your fall sport, your spring sport. It's simply a vehicle that provides opportunity. It does not need to be utilized. There is no one preaching that every single person needs to reclassify. There is no one preaching saying, I am a graduate of a city public school, the city of Fitchburg, Massachusetts. Blue collar. I love public high school. My sons went to Auburn High School. This is not trying to say to parents or students, leave public schools, leave Catholic schools. Nobody's trying to poach. Nobody's trying to pry. Nobody's trying to pull. It's simply an option. The master's model is going to be what I consider to be an elite academic version of IMG. That was inevitable. It was inevitable because of the way the world is beginning to work at the college level. Some people are making money. Some Division 3 schools are starting collectives. Some Division 2 schools are starting collectives. Division 1 schools are adding more and more to their financial collectives that are paying student athletes. So if we look at the bigger picture and your student athlete says, Mom, Dad, I really want to try to be the best I can be, and I want to go to college. I want to be a pharmacist. I want to be an architect. I want to be an accountant. I want to be a doctor. Okay. This is simply leverage, more resources, providing more opportunities. That's it. We heard from a coach, a teacher, a college advisor, Pat Morardi. We're going to hear from 2 students that are now in their mid-30s that are going to be able to talk candidly about their experience and what the postgrad school allowed their future to become. This is not to try to be a promotional segment to advertise. This is simply meant to say, if your student athlete has not had the opportunity to achieve what they feel that they're capable of achieving, you do have options. You have options over and above a JUCO. You have options over and above Division 2, Division 3. You have options. That's what this is about, and this is only what this is about. Trinity Prowling. Okay. Cardigan. Okay, right. Went to Cardigan. Very, very good. Thank you, Mr. McLean. And I will tell you, he will turn 17 this summer before his senior year. My son was 17. Like my son, his birthday is at the end of May. So for those of you asking, my son graduated high school. He was 17, and 2 days later, he turned 18. So, yes, FSU grad 03, yes. As a Canadian family looking for our son to get a chance to play in the USA, He needs to take a year after high school, work and save money. That means he's reclassifying to 2027. Yes, you are correct. Now, I'm glad you said this. I don't know. It just says Malaw 1975. Now, I want to explain to everyone, and I'm running over my hour, and I apologize. This has been going on. Do you know that Barack Obama's daughter took a gap year? Do you know that gap years have been going on for decades, having nothing to do with athletics? Not a thing in the world. People have taken gap years. They've gone to find themselves and traveled to Europe through, all kinds of hostels and backpacking. Gap years have been going on for decades. Some academic schools encourage gap years. You can take a gap year, you can reclass. No one tells you that life is a linear path, is a linear line. You can take a gap year, maybe work, figure out, boy, this is what life does. My oldest son took a gap year. He learned, he worked 40 to 60 hours a week as an 18 and 19-year-old and said, you know what? This isn't fun. I want to have a college experience. Again, over and above athletics, over and above academics, a college collective experience. That's what it is all about. So this is not just taking a year at Masters or going to Deerfield and reclassifying or going to Lawrence Academy. That's not what this is about. And I hope that I have been able to share with families the true meaning of why I wanted to get out in front of this topic. I get hundreds of emails and have dialogues with angry people that think like, you keep pushing this narrative of postgraduate school. You keep pushing this narrative of reclassifying. I'm going to stand up, gosh darn it, for my young athlete, and he's going to get by on his own merits. I lived that. I lived it. It worked out okay. There were days where it wasn't so fun for either my son or myself, but it worked out okay. He's 32. But what I want to end tonight's show on is hear this message loud and clear. The days of lower level athletics are gone. They're gone. Now, when I say lower level, I'm talking about, I just want to go have an enjoyable experience and I'm just going to go Division III. Go watch Endicott play baseball. Go watch Salve Regina play baseball. Go watch Babson. Go watch Tufts. Go watch Bates, Amherst, Bowdoin, Middlebury. Go watch Division III baseball. Go watch a Division II school in the Sunshine State Conference. Go watch an NAIA program like the College of the Cumberlands, University of Cumberlands, Johnson University, Ottawa. Go watch Hastings in Nebraska. Go look at where their rosters are from. My point is, used to be Division I was way up here at the top of the screen, and everybody else was way down here. Those days are gone. The lines are blurred. You must understand that college athletics are big boy and girl business. Big business. So if you want to give your child, I'm coming to you right now as a parent and as a grandparent. I stumble on that grandparent thing. I still don't find myself being 63, but alas, here I am. As a parent, I did not have the financial resources, I'm being candid, to help my boys pay for college. I just didn't have it. And so I knew that if my boys were going to, kind of break out of that mold of go to high school, get a job, go have a beer, and look back and say, I had a great, Ed Bundy childhood, that I wasn't going to be able to help them. Where I could help them was getting them opportunities. And for every person that told me I was a kook, I was a whack job, it was the only thing I could do. So I'm trying to tell parents and the parents that I work with, hey, listen, this is a bigger picture. This isn't about how successful your athlete can become. This is not about what level can your athlete play at or participate at. This is truly a recognition of a process that anyone can take advantage of by creating leverage points, by being proactive, by trading in, the college experience for athletic, opportunities, by trading in your athletic ability for academic opportunities. It can be affordable. I've helped parents. I have literally helped families from all over this country in North America, Canada, get scholarships in excess of $70,000 a year to go to these types of schools, reclassing. I've been doing it for over 30 years. You can ask any of my buddies. You can ask any people that have known me. I've walked it. I talk it, but I've walked it. And I'm trying to get you to understand that if you feel that you have that ability, if you feel that your student athlete has that passion, has that desire, it's attainable, but you just have to know the process. And that's what this is all about. So I got a little winded there because, boy, oh boy, some of these people coming at me, it gets a little irritating when everybody wants to talk about baseball, and sports, and you're trying to tell people they have to do this and they have to do that. No. What I'm trying to do is provide access for people like me that didn't have the wherewithal, that didn't have the bankroll, the 401k, the parents. Like a lot of my friends had parents that left them, resources that allowed their children to have, access. I didn't have that, but I did have baseball, and I did learn how to maximize and be able to trade that and be able to help my boys have a better future, which they are now living as 35 and 38-year-old. So I really want to let people know that tomorrow we're going to talk to the athletes. We're going to ask some athletes. The reason why I wanted to break this up into twofold is I really wanted you as families and you as student athletes, whether you're watching live or through the power of Evergreen throughout the future, to be able to understand it's constantly evolving. Life evolves. It moves forward. It doesn't go backwards. It doesn't stand still. You must understand that there are always options and opportunities if you have the right plan. You must have the right plan. And that is my role when I'm working with families, is to provide multiple plans you choose, and then we'll create action steps on that plan. Tomorrow night, we're going to hear from the students. I take complete pride in the fact that you've waited this long, a little bit over an hour and 20 minutes. I know there's a national championship. I hope whoever you're rooting for, whether that be Miami or Indiana, that you come out on the right side of tonight's championship. After tonight's game, it's officially college baseball season, college softball season, and I look forward to talking with you all tomorrow evening at 8 p.m. Eastern. Please send your questions if you'd like for me to get them ahead of time. I look forward to talking with you tomorrow.